And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well. Listen on News Talk, watch us on the social channels for Periscope on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download it if you haven't already. This is football time. We're joined by the former Republic of Ireland international Damien Delaney, football correspondent of the Irish Independent Dan McDonnell, and the UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan to talk about the beautiful game. So many games going on in the Premier League. We've had a result already: Wolves 0, Brentford 2, and then games ongoing: Burnley against Arsenal, Liverpool against Crystal Palace, Manchester City against Southampton, Norwich against Watford, and a 5:30 kickoff is Aston Villa against Everton at Villa Park. I suppose the first place to start probably is Man United, lads. I suppose we do need to talk about Ole and what happened during the week against Young Boys. The substitutions could be a question mark. Can United close out big situations in big games? We saw how much it affected Man City against Chelsea in the Champions League final when Pep didn't play holding midfielders, losing at home to Crystal Palace and Sheffield United last season. Brilliant away record against Leeds. They were fantastic. Big win over Newcastle, top of the Premier League. Is it a blip? Listeners out there, 53106. It is a one-off. Damien Delaney, I know you've probably had your say on Ole extensively, and you probably know what it is at this stage, but say if you were in charge of Man United, Damien, and you had a 1-11 and you could shape the team the way you wanted to do it, what's the best way to do it at the moment, do you think?
In what way?
Just in terms of the lineup, the system,
of
the personnel.
The personnel is available to him?
Yeah.
Difficult. It's well documented that he does need a number 6, really, and just the makeup of the squad that's put together right now with Harry Maguire is willing, or kind of, he drops off quite a lot. And then you got 2 number 8s in Pogba and Fernandes that don't help midfield. So that's why you see these vast swaths of space between the centre backs and the 2 number 8s. So it's very, very difficult. Over the last year or so, he seems to have gone with the double pivot of Fred and McTominay. But then that imbalances, the squad with just having Pogba on the left wing, which I think is not an ideal place for him. So I do think that he has to just settle on a number 6, but. He needs to. The wingers, for me, are a big one. Because Man United's wide players stay so wide, if you could manage to tuck them in. Now, I know that Man United play with wingers and the Manchester United ways to play with wingers, but if you could kind of tuck them in a little bit, in alongside or closer to Fernandes, so you play like with 3 number 10s almost. So it's a difficult one. But wingers, for me, are too wide. The centre-forward gets isolated, and that's why you see these vast swaths of space in Man United's team.
They sold over $60 million worth of Cristiano Ronaldo shirts in the 36 hours after he was signed, according to the ESPN, that brilliant article, Damien, that we spoke about earlier on the show. It's definitely worth a read for anybody who wants to read it, just about the history of the club. I think he's going to be great for the Premier League. He's going to be great for United. We know he scores goals, but tracking back his age, is it maybe too good to be true in a way?
No, it's not. I mean, the guy scores goals, absolutely, and you can't get away from that. And if Man United had a real solid midfield and a real solid defence and were able to control games, because they don't control games often enough, even this season, when you go back through the Southampton game, the Wolves game, and even the Newcastle game, until Ronaldo put them back in front after the equaliser, you never get the feeling that there's any semblance of control in that Man United team. You've got a lot of individuals just kind of singing from their own hymn sheet is when I watch them play, and that's kind of why I came to the conclusion of Manchester United. But if you got in another manager, another coach that could get a cohesive plan and get the players to buy into it, then you might be able to reshape the setup of the team.
Shane Keegan, are they a defensive midfielder and a new manager away from being the top dogs?
I don't know if it's quite that simple. I suppose one of the main issues that they have, John, is if you go back to the question you asked Damien, is probably the reason it's so hard to answer, is what's the best way for them to set up? Well, that's very specific as to who they're playing. And I think what they do have now is they have, in Ronaldo and the players around him, they have got a set of players who I think can blow probably 75% of the teams in the Premier League. They should be able to swat them aside with ease with the addition of Ronaldo in there. And that's where he will be a huge, huge help. The problem is the team you would pick to play those 75% of teams is a very has to be a different team than the team you would pick to play against the top 3 or 4 sides and also some of the biggest sides in Europe, because they're just too open with that setup. That setup that started against Newcastle and blew them out of the water last week. I don't think you could use that setup, as Damien has said as well, against some of the bigger teams. A proper holding midfielder, would that transform things? Look, it would. It would to a certain extent. I still don't know, even with a proper holding midfielder, if you could play Pogba in that number 8 position against a really, really top side. I would have that question mark all of the time, so I would. But you're asking the right question. Like, how, jerseys aside and love of the player and his love of the club and all that aside, if you're talking purely on, we have an amount of money to spend, how are we going to choose to spend it? Like, there's no logical explanation for spending that money on a centre forward, as good and all as that centre forward is, over a holding midfielder. If now maybe there wasn't a top quality holding midfielder to get, Jelly, I'm not sure, but if there was, surely to God, with the kind of money that they've spent on the outlay with Ronaldo, they could have found somebody who could have ticked that box for them.
Yeah, but can I just come in there? I agree with completely with the number 6. I think there's probably only one number 6 in the world who could come into that Man United team and make a difference, and that is obviously N'Golo Kante, because he is as good as having 2 central midfield players. But other than him, with the issue of Maguire dropping off, there's all of a sudden there's 15 yards of space, and with the issue of the 2 number 8s and Pogba and Fernandes not tracking back and filling holes and filling passing lanes, that's a large ocean of space for any number 6 to operate in, and I believe that it would be a struggle for even the likes of Kante. For Man United to have a good number 6, you need your 2 centre-backs right up, so there's no space. So he doesn't really have to worry a whole pile about what's going on behind him. There's nothing worse if you're playing as a number 6 and you're doing your job and things are in front of you, and all of a sudden a ball gets whizzed down the side of you, and you turn around, your 2 centre-halves are 20 yards behind you, and then you're thinking, Lord have mercy. So, the root of the problem, and I've been on the record of saying this, is the back 4. Harry Maguire's first tendency, when Man United lose the ball, you watch him, his first tendency is to head for home, is to drop off and protect himself and his lack of mobility. Virgil van Dijk, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. You watch anytime Liverpool turn the board over, automatically he takes a step forward, and that's just the way he plays. So, look, there's a kind of a lot of issues at play here, an awful lot, but it's a poorly put together squad. In my opinion, it was a squad that was put together. Look at the Ronaldo move. I mean, that was spur of the moment. That was picking up a chocolate bar at the cash register on your way out. You weren't planning on it, but you saw it, you thought you liked it, and you picked it up. I think that's what that was. There wasn't a whole pile of thought went into that.
Was it a good chocolate bar, I wonder?
Well, more
Damien, 30 shops in expensive places, to be fair, when he can pick up a Ronaldo on the way out of the shop, that just tells you where Damo does his shopping on a weekly basis, I'd say.
Yeah, they couldn't let Man City take the last Yorkie bar either, could they?
Last Rolo.
I suppose the one thing about Ronaldo is, like, how long do you think they're going to get out of him? And he's obviously he is still a great signing, right? Like, he's still, as the lads have sort of alluded to in different ways, like there's games that he will win for them this season. But I suppose the question, you see Jamie Carragher today. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, Jamie Carragher's column in the Independent, and he's just speaking about, like, he might cause more problems over time. They had a sort of a certain start of the season with a certain purpose, with Greenwood flying sort of as a number 9, and Sancho was going to play out wide. And is there a danger it sort of stunts the development of a structure in the attacking areas that will stand the test of time over a longer term? But obviously they couldn't resist the Ronaldo thing, and it sort of makes sense, and it's very hard to criticise the signing. But there is that issue about, are you building something that's going to sustain over a period of time that actually facilitates the development of the promising young players that they do have? But obviously, as the lads have laid out well, there's like structural problems further back on the pitch that are going to halt them anyway. And as Shane sort of mentioned, you're not going to let Man City take them. So you understand why they've done it. But obviously, at times this season, like, you would think at times this season it would make sense not to play Ronaldo, but because of the power of the personality, is that ever going to happen? And that's going to be one of the interesting things that we see. We'll see that play itself out in terms of the strength of management to deal with that situation. I think that would be a concern and a question mark for sure.
53106 for your text message. Let's strangely, United's record in the Premier League in the last 2 seasons versus City and Chelsea is 1-5, drawn 3. Discuss, says John in Dublin. Anything you want to say about that, Damien?
Yeah, that's very easy. He goes ultra defensive in the big games. He goes like really with two pivots in midfield and Fred and McTominay or Matic, and they counter-attack. And unfortunately, you can't counter-attack your way to a Premier League. Although I know Leicester in 2016 would probably take issue with that statement, but there's anomalies in everything. So look, you won't Manchester United won't counter-attack their way to a Champions League. They won't counter-attack their way to a Premier League, but they will frustrate teams. You look at all the results last year, how many 0-0 draws he had in big games. So he almost, in the big games, you saw last year. He the first time last year he really went with the single pivot was the second leg against Roma when he thought the game was done and dusted. And they very, very nearly got caught out in that game. If you remember on 60 minutes, David De Gea made 2 world-class saves that actually would have put Roma level at 5-5 or something crazy like that. I can't remember the exact scores. So I think he realises and he sees the problem that he has. And in the big games, if they try and take the game to certain teams, they're going to get absolutely annihilated with the makeup of that team. So he goes with the double pivot and he goes with workhorses wide. They're trying to move away from that now. And I remember watching an interview with Solskjaer at the start of the season when they signed Varane. And one of the first things he said was, Varane gives us a different dimension. We can play a certain way now. We can play a different way with Varane. And I know exactly what he was alluding to, and that is we can hold a higher line and keep tighter to the midfield. And like Liverpool do and City do, they compress the pitch high up and they win the ball back high up the pitch. But I think if Maguire's tendency is to drop off and Varane's trying to hold the line, the natural tendency is Varane will drop off with Maguire, obviously, because he will sense that danger. So, look, it's a squad that's been put together by a variety of managers with no director of football. I know Darren Fletcher's there now, but it's a squad that has been put together on the fly, really, with no clear long-term plan of what Manchester United want to represent. So I think that's kind of why they find their way they are. But it's all doom and gloom for Manchester United. I mean, they're still a very, very good team. They're still going to finish in the top 4 this year. Of course they are. And, they might win a League Cup or something along the way. But in terms of getting back to where they should be and where they believe they should be, I think they're a while away yet.
They don't have the individuals, Damien. Sorry, Shane. They don't have the individuals with like Varane and Sancho and Ronaldo joining the squad to win the title. You don't think, Damien? No.
No, I don't think so. I think you saw that in the start, the way the season started already. They, as I alluded to earlier, they don't control games. And when you don't control games, it's up in the air. You can have a bad day. That's why the likes of Pep, tries to have 70-80% possession, because if he can starve you of possession, it limits the chance of the opposition scoring against you, And the same with Liverpool. But I think Manchester United, we saw in the Wolves game, they were very fortunate to get out there with a win. I mean, Wolves absolutely mangled them for 60 minutes. Southampton, they didn't get away with it. So what I'm saying is, if you leave it up in the air, some days it'll work out for you, some days it won't.
You're speaking about City there, Damien. Raheem Sterling starts today with Grealish and Gabriel Jesus alongside him. That's against Southampton at the Etihad Stadium. Liverpool, Crystal Palace. We got Konate playing in Liverpool's defence with Van Dijk back in the team today. We also have Tsimikas at left back and a front three of Salah, Jota and Mane. You wanted to come in there, Shane Keegan?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Jay, what I'd really love to know is in his heart of hearts, when he's on his own, how does Solskjaer actually feel about Ronaldo's arrival? Like, obviously, he will put in his public persona will say that it's a fantastic sign and delighted to have him. And I'm sure when he got the call from the board, he feared saying anything other than that when they proposed the idea as well. But when he's on his own in his own moments, I'd love to know how he actually did he really want him coming in? I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of thinks to himself, I don't know, I think I could have done without this one, really. You could certainly make the point that Ronaldo is arguably the hardest personality in world football to manage. For all the pros that come with him, and you see a lot of social media stuff the other night when they went down to 10 that. Or Solskjaer has shown that he's weak as a manager already because he didn't take Ronaldo off. The only move when they went down to 10 was to take Ronaldo off. Like, that's so easy to say, JD, so it is. But to actually go ahead and do that, and have to deal with a stroppy, sulky Ronaldo around the place then for the next couple of weeks and all of that kind of thing. There's going to be a lot of situations this season where Solskjaer is going to think, I could have done without this really, and those situations are always going to revolve around Ronaldo, you know.
53106, the jury is no longer out on Solskjaer. The Martial for Fred substitution with Lingard in the middle was the latest in a long line of in-game blunders. United will win nothing with him in charge, says Tom on 53106. Get in touch, United fans. Like to hear people defending Solskjaer, you know, because he's such a club legend, and that seems to be part of the cloak that United fans put him in to defend him. Do you think Ronaldo could become an issue in what the regard Shane is speaking about there, Damien?
I think he could, because the guy's a born winner, and I'd say he's as ruthless as they come. And I could imagine that on the plane home, Ronaldo might have had some questions of his own. And if he ends up in the Europa League this year, it could be an issue. Yeah, absolutely. If he doesn't feel that the manager is giving him or the team or the football club the platform to compete for leagues, because that's what he's about, leagues and Champions League, then yes, I'm pretty sure that he's an opinion, and he's probably not someone that is shy in giving it. And that requires an incredible amount of self-control as a manager to manage those types of players. So it could be difficult, yes, but I mean, at the minute we're early in the season, and he's scoring goals. So normally those types of players, when they're scoring goals, they're pretty happy. But I think there will come a stage where push does come to shove, yes.
You starkly say it there, Damien and Dan, it's not guaranteed now they get out of that group.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it certainly leaves them on the back foot. I mean, they've plenty of time to turn it around, and I think they should. I mean, I think the early signs are that the Premier League clubs are still in a pretty good place, you know, in the sense of you even see the sort of Liverpool AC Milan game, and you know, two clubs you would view as on a similar standing, I suppose, and yet I know Milan went ahead and stuff, but I mean, they were sort of battered in those opening 10-15 minutes, and it's a pretty obvious point. We know at this stage the financial power and muscle of the Premier League clubs is such that you still think they should be able to. I mean, it's a catastrophe if they don't negotiate that group. I mean, if he isn't capable of turning around that situation with the squad that he has. Well, I mean, in some ways, I'm sick of the constant Ole debate. You know, as in, he's in a situation whereby until he actually wins like something massive, like delivers something big, he will always have that question mark hanging over him. He's always 2 or 3 games away from a crisis, and managers will have games like the other night that happen sometimes. You know, sometimes just, you know, your team goes down to 10 and things go wrong, but you don't have the credit in the bank to withstand it if you're someone who's been viewed as such a questionable choice to be manager as he is. But I mean, if for the sort of, you know, second year in a row they have an issue where they can't get out of a group, you know, and they sort of flounder. I mean, it just makes, what's that reference, the jury is out. I mean, the jury has sort of returned its verdict, I think, at that stage. But I think the strength of the Premier League Big Four is such that they should all be capable of negotiating their groups. I mean, it's an absolute disaster if they don't.
53106, talking rubbish, best attack and best back four in the Premier League, says one of our texters, probably defending what United are on about at the moment. The issue I have is that where's the progress? You could bring in Sancho, Varane, you bring in Ronaldo. Villarreal, final of the Europa League, you don't have any subs brought on for the whole 90 minutes. You lose on penalties, and then that happened the other night. I know there was a couple of things like the Lingard back pass, all that kind of thing. But just like when you're seeing players on the touchline besides Solskjaer, it just kind of I found it a bit strange. And I don't know if he is the answer to bring Manchester United back to the top table. Just a text in here. What does Damien make of Newcastle? Manager turning on players, leaks, bust-ups, places turn into a joke at the moment, says Paul in Limerick, Damien.
Not much I could really add to that, to be honest with you. That text sums it up. That will not be a pretty place to be. You know, when manager fell, I know he had a big falling out last year with Matt Ritchie as well. You know, you can kind of paper over one of them or patch up one of those disputes, but ultimately the writing is on the wall. It can't keep going on like this, you know. But I suppose as long as they keep getting results, which they didn't get last night, but I just think that if he can keep nicking results and staying in the league, because that is his remit, he can do. But I mean, every time a story like this comes out, it just becomes more and more and more difficult for Steve Bruce. But clearly all is not well there. You've got an ownership, a fan base, and a manager that are miles apart, and it's not a pretty environment to be in when that is the case.
And just thinking, Damien, have you ever been in a situation where you've been in a dressing room where loads of stuff is coming out, if you know what I mean? Because it does seem at Newcastle, like there was this one, it was a Graham Jones disagreement the other day with one of the players and Dwight Gale, wasn't it? And like real, like, you know, granular detail of disputes and conflicts is coming out, and it's like, it's not just one instance. It's not like, you know, a training ground row being caught on camera. Like, this is like details that only certain people would know. Like, have you ever been in a situation where a lot of stuff from your club is coming out?
Not to the extent of what's coming out in Newcastle, and I think that will be driving Steve Bruce mad. But I mean, Newcastle is such a big football club in such an area that it's almost it is a religion for those fans, and it is, you know, the magnifying glass is on that club 24/7. But normally, in my experience, when something comes out that's kind of a little bit close to the bone, or you're kind of going, oh, that's details that only the people that were there would know. Usually, it's nothing deliberate. It's normally, you know, a player telling his mate after training. Or texting it to someone, or an agent who's got an ulterior motive at the club, or somebody that has some sort of grudge against the football club that kind of gets wind of it, or gets onto a player who knows he can't keep his mouth shut. And so rather than being anything too deliberate from the players' point of view, I can't imagine any of the players really going out of their way to sink a manager in that respect. I think that is a bit Machiavellian for any footballer, to be honest with you. But I can't answer your question now, because I don't think I've ever been in that situation. It's certainly very, very strange, but it's not pretty, is it?
Oh. It's when the ship is sinking. This is when you get all the stuff. I was reading the Athletic about Chris Hughton departing Nottingham Forest, and WhatsApp messages being leaked and all this kind of thing, and talk about a style of play. And I suppose it's easy when things are going wrong and things are going down for that to be the case. But the Newcastle fans, they all want the Saudis. They all want the Saudis in there.
But Newcastle, I mean, Paul's text there, I mean, Newcastle seems like it's been a mess for about 8 seasons. You know what I mean? Like, the Steve Bruce one is quite a pronounced version of it, because it seems like from the start he's been on the back foot. But really, like, every time you sort of hear something about Newcastle, it's like, oh, there might be some takeover taking place, just some behind the scenes conflict. It's like the same sort of, it's like watching a box set again and again and again. You know, it's all the same stuff.
Newcastle
on
till I die.
But it's just pure. Well, that's it. I mean, they made the show on Sunderland, but I think a Newcastle one definitely would have rivaled it for sort of slapstick nonsense. You know.
Well, Shane and I know the Spurs one was a waste of time. 53106, lads, any team in world football would take Ronaldo. Not many players can guarantee 25 to 30 goals a season. United tickets are impossible to get, and they're top of the league, says Mark. And Ole has vastly improved the atmosphere plus the spirit in the team after Jose's strop in his final months. Shaw provides the evidence. Decent signings compared to Jose and Van Gaal. Issue is his tactical naivety versus the big three managers, but media ought still to afford him a little bit more respect, says John, one of our texters on 53106. Only thing about it is, John, this is Manchester United. This is a club, a global brand. You should be winning Premier League titles. Just before we go to the break, Damien Delaney, Lee Grant, the Man United reserve goalkeeper, was speaking about Ronaldo's healthy plate in the canteen and no player daring to go for desserts. So I was just curious, when I was thinking about the show ahead of this today, were you much of a dessert man in the canteen, or did you completely eschew any kind of sweet things as a footballer?
Absolutely not. Friday night in hotels, I used to look forward to it. You used to get rice pudding or apple crumble and custard, and I wouldn't care if Ronaldo or anyone walked through the door. There was almost stopping me getting it, to be honest. I was straight up for it. It was something I really look forward to. I remember when the year we made it to the cup final in 2016, Alan Pardew started this thing on the Friday before FA Cup games. It was fish and chips on the Friday before we left the training ground to go wherever we were going. Because he said it was something that he did, I think, in 1990, the Palace team, when they got to the cup final in 1990. So he said he was bringing it back in. I mean, you want to see all the foreign lads going, what, fish and chips on a Friday before we head off on the bus or go to the hotel or wherever we're going. But I loved it. I was something to look forward to, and it was quite clever because you knew that week it was FA Cup. You're like, oh, lovely fish and chips on Friday at lunchtime after training. So look, if your diet is good, your diet is good. Apple crumble on a Friday night isn't going to make a whole pile of difference. But obviously, if you're eating apple crumble every day, then it will. But no, I Ronaldo wouldn't have stopped me getting my apple crumble on Friday night. I promise you that.
We have this image, Damien, that like the modern Premier League footballer, like their body is a temple, and that everyone subscribes to a certain standard. Like, is that something you would have seen that evolution across your time playing, or is there still lads there that are sort of, doing their own thing, I suppose?
Well, I mean, yeah, but within reason, you know what I mean? You'd still like sometimes lads would come in and have some of the lads in London would have come from a jerk shop or something where they'd have rice and peas and all that stuff on a takeaway and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, even once or twice a week or on a Friday, before a game, apple crumble isn't the end of the world. So, if 99% of what you're doing is right, then 1%, I always remember that story where Usain Bolt in Beijing had 20 chicken nuggets before the final or something along those lines, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, he has chicken nuggets," and it wasn't. He 4 years leading up to Beijing was probably perfection, but obviously he didn't want to get sick by taking a risk of going out to a restaurant or eating food that he didn't know. So he just realised that McDonald's was a safe option. It would make no difference to you, if the life is living good, then little things like that don't really make a whole pile of difference.
Chicken nuggets are also good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which you can't. Do many players smoke, or do players smoke at all anymore, Damien?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I would say so, yeah.
And what about alcohol? Was there any kind of strict managerial directives around that, or?
No, I think with stuff like that, with food and drink and stuff like that, right, you have to police yourself. Because if you're taking liberties with that stuff, you're not going to be training well. You're not going to be fresh in the mornings. Your numbers are going to be down. You're going to see it, obviously. I don't think football clubs, any of the managers I played for, cared. You could do what you want. You could have 5 points per training if you wanted. If you trained well and you played well on a Saturday. If you're doing well and you're playing well, then managers don't really have a whole pile of interest in what you're doing. But obviously, if you're not living your life right and you're not training well and you're not playing well, then you're going to be cut quicker than you could imagine. So it's in your own self-interest to look after yourself.
I think it's interesting because people always have. I don't know, Shane, are you experienced in this? Because you're obviously doing a bit of GAA work. So you've been sort of coaching a hurling club. That there's obviously different cultural views sometimes. Like in GAA here, it's almost this fastidious approach. Like you have to, you don't drink at all during championship. In some places, it's a real hardcore, ultimate discipline. Whereas you get the sense that sometimes around football and league clubs who are playing 30, 40 games a season, there's a slightly different approach to it. I don't know if you found a contrast between the worlds, Shane, that you get a different slant on it.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I suppose if I look at the two most recent setups I've been in either sport, with Dundalk, let's say, there's just never really a conversation around it. There's never really a talk of a drinks ban or anything. It's not a topic of conversation that really comes up. And I mean, you might be aware that fellas went for a couple of drinks. To be honest with you, what I suppose, I suppose I was there during lockdown. They had no option but to go to a house for a few drinks rather than to a pub. But they might go back to a lad's house after a game or that, and they might have a few drinks and that. But I mean, you never really have any more than one day off. So it kind of has to be a short and sharp one if you're going to have a few drinks. Soccer wise, GA wise, yeah, it's much more of a talked about thing. I think every manager who takes over a club or a county, it's part of their start of the takeover conversation, what their line is going to be on alcohol and drinking and all of that kind of thing. I do think because of the amount of kind of piss taken and negative publicity that the drinks bans have got, I do think people have started to soften on that, because as Damien says, it's so which would you rather have? The fella who likes to let off a bit of steam and have 6 or 7 pints the night after his match, and then lives a pristine, perfect life for the rest of it? Or a fella who says, oh no, I don't drink, but is eating absolute crap or isn't in the gym or isn't taking care of himself? There's a balance to be struck. We play every second week in the Laois Hurling Championship here. We'll play on a Friday night. boys will be allowed to drink Friday night and even Saturday night. They have to knock it on the head on Saturday. Can't go into Sunday, and you have 2 weeks before your next championship match. I mean, the couple of points there, well, might be more than a couple, but the points they're going to have on a Friday and a Saturday night aren't going to affect them 2 weeks later in a championship match.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally do. But like, I also think there's a cultural difference between the GA and us. Like, if I would always go out and have dinner after a game, or always did it after and have a game and have a bottle of wine, and I might have a couple of, like, I don't know, vodka cokes or whatnot, and go home at like 1 or 2 in the morning, which is fine. I do think that in the GA, sometimes, 10 points can roll into a 2 or 3 day session, and that's obviously not good for you. So I think, taking things handy is obviously knowing when you've had enough and when to going home is obviously a big thing.
Did you socialise much with your teammates, Damien?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a great camaraderie. We used to go out go around someone's house after games. I remember we used to go around Mila Jedinak's house after games. He lived in Putney, and I used to go to his house straight away, and we'd have like 2 or 3 bottles of wine from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and his missus would make us food and stuff, and we'd sit out the back garden when the weather was nice, and then I'd get a taxi home, and that was kind of the done thing. Or we'd go for a meal, to a restaurant, and again, we'd have a bottle of wine, and we'd, maybe have a couple of short ones afterwards. But again, like, you're done and dusted by 1:30, and you're home in bed, and then you'd obviously Sunday be off, and then Monday you're back into train. So like, that's how we kind of used to do it. But yeah, lads socialise and lads have a drink, but obviously knowing when you've had enough and when it's having a detrimental effect is obviously key.
Damien, that's not a pairing I would have seen naturally. What drew you to Jednak? How did you become such good mates with him? Oh,
me and him, like, we're still, he's probably the only footballer I still speak to. 20 years playing career, I still speak to him. I like him, man. He's got a great mentality. But I spent an unholy amount of time with him. As I said, I spent more time around his house. They used to think he's probably one of their children as most anything else. Like, and we used to go on holidays together and stuff. And we have similar enough views on an awful lot of things. And he's a really, really good guy. He's a strong character. But I like listening to him, and I like talking to him. And sometimes he has a different point of view to me, which I always respect. But as I said, we used to go on holidays and stuff, and with the families and whatnot, and have fun. But he's top man. He's a really good fella. I still enjoy his company. Both of us have a penchant for an old glass of red wine, I suppose, Shane.
So what we're going to see now is Jednak asked about his ideal dinner party, and it's going to be like Stalin and Damien Delaney. That's going to be
Genghis Khan.
And they've got so much in common, except Damon makes it in, makes the cut.
Okay, 53106, you want to get in touch. Plenty of text to get to after the break. Martin Odegaard has scored for Arsenal 1-0 away to Burnley, and also 1-0 for Watford away to Norwich in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Emmanuel Dennis with the goal in the first half for the Hornets. It is goalless between Manchester City and Southampton, goalless between Liverpool and Crystal Palace, and earlier on in the Premier League it finished Wolves 0, Brentford 2. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk is back after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
This weekend on News Talk, we're celebrating Sleeptember with Harvey Norman, the sleep experts. We'll be speaking to sleep specialists to help you get the most out of your rest with plenty of tips and tricks, like this one. Don't try to sleep. It needs to find you. Keep your eyes open and gently resist sleep, or try to adopt a carefree, accepting attitude to wakefulness. If you can't get to sleep within 15 minutes from switching the light off, then get up and go to another room and do something relaxing. Harvey Norman is Ireland's biggest bedding retailer, with everything from Irish-made mattresses, luxury linen and a range of sleep technology. To find out more and for your chance to win a €1,000 Harvey Norman voucher for their bedding department, head to newstalk.com/sleep.
So, for the extension, we'll put it in here and, the kids will love it.
Oh, then for the home office, it should start here and then halfway.
We know that you can get so excited about your plans that it can be hard to get them finished. So whether it's creating more space for the kids or making the home office of your dreams, Permanent TSB is here to help you finish what you started, with online loan approval in minutes. That's permanent support. Apply for a home improvement loan at permanenttsb.ie. Online loan approval in minutes applies to current account salary mandated customers registered for online banking. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply, subject to affordability assessment. Security may be required. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Afternoons are easy with insuremyvan.ie, Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Get your business back on the road with Insure My Van's best price guarantee. For super savings, visit insuremyvan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremyvan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Dundeel has the largest range of premium cars in Ireland from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships. That's why you will find Lahart's Volkswagen on Dundeel. Stop by Lahart's Volkswagen on Dundeel today and see their incredible offers on used cars and new 212 models. Dundeel, for premium deals to feel great about from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships.
Success in any kind of sport takes hard work, but to become a world-class success, well, that's a whole other ballgame. That's why Davy would like to congratulate Leona Maguire on her golfing success. We know it takes more than natural talent, endless practice and tough fitness regimes. It takes an entire career of focus and dedication too. Not only is Leona leading the way for women's golf in Ireland, she's inspiring all Irish athletes to follow their dreams. This is your year, and we'll continue to support you for every drive, pitch, chip and putt. Davy, supporting young Irish athletes.
The waiting is all but over.
The Ryder Cup, exclusively live on Sky Sports.
This scene is unlike anything in golf.
Be part of the noise, atmosphere and head-to-head rivalry. For just €20 a month for 6 months. Sky Sports, the only place to witness all the drama unfold from the Ryder Cup.
Unbelievable.
It's only live once. To join or upgrade today for just €20 a month for 6 months, search Sky Sports Golf. New sports customers only. Standard pricing applies after 6 months. Further terms apply.
These days, we're all looking for healthy, tasty family meals and lots of variety. The good news is that our fishermen continue to bring us the best of the catch, like fresh Irish hake and haddock. There are so many ways to enjoy them. Try delicious Thai curry with hake or mouth-watering Cajun seasoned haddock. For lots of tasty recipes and different meal ideas, visit boardbeer.ie and look out for Irish hake and haddock next time you're shopping. Fresh ideas, great meals.
Last year, National Lottery players raised over €254 million to support good causes all across Ireland. You make this possible. The National Lottery.
There's never been a better time to switch to Electric Ireland. We're offering all new customers a €265 welcome bonus. All you have to do is call 1800 30 50 90 or visit electricireland.ie. For your welcome bonus, switch today. Electric Ireland. We're brighter together. Estimated annual bill €1,895. Average consumption urban 24-hour discounted unit rate. Standing charge PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential dual fuel direct debit and online billing. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates at 1st of August 2021, subject to change.
Wake up to mattress and bed savings at the Harvey Norman 4-day mattress clearance. With massive discounts and hundreds of deals on in-stock mattresses ready for immediate delivery. Like single mattresses from just €99. Up to 50% off double mattresses. Roll-up mattresses from only $149. Up to 40% off Irish-made mattresses. Plus huge discounts across all the biggest brands like O'Dearest, King Coil and more. Shop the Harvey Norman 4-day mattress clearance. But hurry, must end Sunday. Go!
If you're pregnant, a COVID-19 vaccine will help to protect you and your baby. Most people who get COVID-19 while pregnant have mild to moderate symptoms, but you are more at risk of being very unwell or needing hospital treatment. It is safe to get your vaccine at any stage of pregnancy. Before you get your COVID-19 vaccine, make sure you talk to your doctor or midwife. And you'll find more information on hsc.ie. From the HSE.
Football on Off the Ball.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5 with Damien Delaney, the former Republic of Ireland international, the football correspondent of the Irish Independent, Dan McDonnell, and the UEFA Pro licensed coach Shane Keegan to talk about the beautiful game. You can text us on 53106. Listen on News Talk. Watch us on the social and digital channels as well for Off the Ball, for Periscope on Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Just to let you know, Manchester United fans won't miss or want to miss our latest Cadbury FC Roadshow. We're going to be behind the scenes at Old Trafford with legendary defender and Champions League winner Jaap Stam. He'll be chatting about his glory years at Man United, working with Fergie, and we'll also be hearing from the legendary kitman who looked after Bex, Keane and Cantona, that's Albert Morgan. Irish international and massive Man U supporter Stephanie Roach will also be joining us, all with thanks to Cadbury FC and their club partnerships, granting you access all areas at the Premier League's biggest clubs, coming soon to OTB Sports social channels. 53106 for your text messages. Here are a sample of them. As a United fan, the manager question is the same as the Arlen Kenny question. It's easy to point out the problems, but when he's available, and who is an available suitable replacement? Fully agree with Dan McDonnell. I'm sick and tired of the big blowback discussions after every overwhelming result. My view is the same. Give them both projects and managers one more campaign and take a measured assessment at the end. The weekly audits have to stop, says Rory from Cork. You refer to United as a global brand. Do you ever refer to Liverpool as a global brand? Explain. Is it that Liverpool are morally superior in your eyes, says John? Well, John, I'm a Spurs fan, so there's nobody morally superior than us.
Liverpool just scored.
Sadio Mane has just scored 1-0 to Liverpool against Crystal Palace. Damien, your old boys, it seemed from the way you were speaking on TV the other night, Damien, that you might feel that Liverpool are getting back there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think so, man. I think they're they look like they got their mojo back. They obviously the centre-back issue being resolved, I don't think you can underplay the severity of the problems they had to deal with last year. When your two centre-backs are basically under 23 players with no experience, or you lose one of the best number sixes in the league when he has to go back and play there in Fabinho. Confidence drained. They found it very, very difficult to play the type of game that they want to play. But my God, they're stacked with centre-backs now, as we've seen with today's pairing, which I probably think will be the pairing we'll see moving forward. It looks to me like that could be the first choice pairing, Van Dijk and Konate. But look, Joe Gomez, Joe Matip on the bench is fantastic. He certainly went and solved that problem. And Mane looks back to his sizzling best, his bubbly best. Henderson looks revived, rejuvenated after his layoff last year. Fabinho is a rock in the middle of the park. And I think Thiago gives him something different. I know he's not the rock and roll type midfield player that a lot of people think he is, but I do believe that the Atletico game last year, when Liverpool threw everything they could at them and they couldn't run right over the top of Atletico, I think Jurgen Klopp probably realised he needed something different, another string to his bow or whatever you want to put to it. But against low blocks and teams that seem to be able to stand up to the physicality of Liverpool, someone like Thiago is going to be invaluable moving forward. So they've addressed, I believe, their biggest need. I still would like to have seen maybe another kind of attacker come in, because after Jota, Mane, Salah and Firmino, you're kind of down to Origi, and it might be a tad greedy to say 5 for 3 would be nice, but I just kind of wish they went and got someone, because that would have meant then that I think they're stacked, they're loaded and they're ready to go.
It came from a corner of the goal. It was delivered in, and Salah had an attempt and it was just parried into the path of Mane, who scored.
Palace marking was horrendous. I mean, I don't know. There was.
We don't know Damien Delaney, you see. So.
Well, there's a communication breakdown of some description there. I'm not sure how you would explain it, but not exactly vintage defending.
And maybe the season that they had last season, Damien, with like players like Curtis Jones getting more, maybe game time ahead of time, will help. That they've got squad now, players with experience in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all looks good for them. I mean, it's. They're only one or two signings away over the next year or two from maintaining their dominance, really, and they are going to push City and Chelsea. I think it's going to be between them three, and it's going to be a pretty good race. I think it's going to be a survival of the fittest type of thing. But Liverpool are in a good headspace right now. They look rejuvenated, and I think they have the motivation that maybe they'll feel a little bit hard done by last year.
Shane, what do you think of Liverpool at the moment?
100%. The only question mark I'd have over him is the one Damien just touched on, is that final third of the field. So many options right in the first 2/3 of the field, to such an extent that, if they didn't have as many options as they have, you'd be looking at Harvey Elliott's injury as being a huge loss, because I couldn't have been more impressed with him. I thought he was absolutely outstanding in the couple of games that I saw him playing. But luckily for them, as Damien is saying, they have got lots and lots of options in that area. If Mo Salah was to suffer a Harvey Elliott style injury, Now that's a complete game changer for them, so it is. Jota is a very, very good player. If we take their first choice front three, I suppose, as being Salah, Firmino, and Mane. Jota for Firmino, it doesn't weaken the side massively. Jota even for Mane, while it's a step down, it still doesn't, not a massive impact. But Jota for Salah, and it's kind of more just the respect I'd hold for Salah than saying that Jota isn't a good player. That's a massive decrease in quality, and if he was to suffer something that put him out for a few months, or imagine Jerry, if they lost 2 of that 4 for a 4 to 8 week period, what do they do then? Because a team that has to regularly feature Origi or Minamino, like that's a major drop off in terms of quality. So at the moment for me, they're ticking absolutely every other box. I think they're great. As I say, it is disappointing to see Harvey Elliott's injury because I was just enjoying him so much. But real pressure on them to keep Salah in particular fit, or that is the one place they could trip up.
Okay, 53106 for your text. Lads, if Klopp or Pep had signed Ronaldo, it would have been hailed as a coup. Give Ole a break. United will not be far off the top come next May. Smoking, what elite sports person is stupid enough to smoke tobacco in this enlightened age, says Gary. Say what you want, but Ronaldo, by example, has pioneered today's raised levels of excellence in football by his approach to diet, exercise and practice, says Brian. What happens to Pochettino's reputation if he can't deliver the Champions League for PSG this year? I'm a fan of his as a coach, but he's one less than Ole, says John. Well, maybe he'll come back to Spurs. Listening to what's going on in Newcastle can't help feeling sorry for the fans. That was West Ham until the second coming of Moyes. Now the change in West Ham is stunning, says Paul, a hammer of 53 years. When I look at West Ham, Damien Delaney, I just see a settled team with Rice as the fulcrum of it.
Yeah, absolutely. David Moyes, I'm glad for him. I'm pleased. He kind of didn't probably get the same backing at Manchester United, and he was maybe thrown out a little bit too fast. But he obviously then went around Sunderland and Spain and whatnot. But he certainly has a similar type feel to those Everton teams that he had back in the day with this West Ham side. Just real good, honest, hard-working, organised side with a sprinkle of stardust in it. You think like Timmy Cahill and Fellaini in his teams that can score goals. He's got a similar type setup at West Ham, and West Ham fans must be absolutely delighted.
No Antonio tomorrow, of course. There's our commentary here on News Talk. We're first of 2, West Ham against Man United with Nathan Murphy and Brian Kerr. And then we have Tottenham Hotspur against Chelsea with Dave McIntyre and Keith Tracy calling that one. So bumper show of commentaries here on News Talk and Off the Ball tomorrow from the Premier League. Half times around the block. Burnley 0, Arsenal 1. Odegaard with the goal for the Gunners. Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0, as we spoke about with Sadio Mane. It is Manchester City 0, Southampton 0. Interesting score at half time with Raheem Sterling back in the City team today. Norwich 1, Watford 1. Norwich have scored. Timo Pukki equalising Emmanuel Dennis's opener at the Carrow Road. Aston Villa take on Everton at 5:30. Earlier on it finished Wolves 0, Brentford 2. Tony and Mbeumo scoring for Brentford. A good win for them away to Wolves. In the Championship, great stuff from an Irish perspective. John Egan has scored twice for Sheffield United against Hull, a 3-1 win. And Conor Hourihane assisting twice as well. Half-time scores: Barnsley 0, Blackburn 0. Half-time Cardiff 0, Bournemouth 0. Half-time Derby, who are in all sorts of problems at the moment, are leading Stoke by 2-0. Latest score is Fulham 0, Reading 1. It is Huddersfield 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Remember, Nottingham Forest are now under Stephen Reid's caretaker management after the sacking of Chris Hughton. Luton 3, Swansea 0 is a half-time score. Half-time Middlesbrough 1, Blackpool 0. Half-time Millwall 1, Coventry 1. It is Peterborough 2, Birmingham City 0 at half-time. Preston 1, West Brom 1 at half-time. And QPR 0, Bristol City 1 is a half-time score from the Championship. Sligo Rovers and Shamrock Rovers kick off in the League of Ireland Premier Division at 7:45. And half-time scores in Scotland: Aberdeen 0, St Johnstone 0. Hibernian 0, St Mirren 1. And Ross County 2, Hearts 1. Just before we go to the breakdown, great to see John Egan back in the scoring books. Not that he's expected to do that.
No, I mean, it's great that Egan has scored twice. I'd nearly say the Hourihane thing is almost more significant in the sense that, I mean, like, we know what John Egan is. We know he's a good player. Sheffield United had a slow start to the season. I think Egan's in one of those seasons where, he's staying with the team he's gone down with. But obviously if they don't go up this year, you'd expect he's one that might have some interest. I know we can look at things through sort of rose tinted spectacles sometimes, or green tinted ones even, but I think that would be genuine. But I think for Hourihane, to go there on loan. He wants to play. This was his first start today. But looks of it, he was sort of operating a bit more deeper, but still managed to get involved and create 2 goals. And that means that coming into the internationals in October, you'd presume between now and then he's going to play every game, or he's going to come in with sort of 4, 5, 6 games under his belt depending on the schedule. So 2 Cork lads linking up, I guess, but it is something promising there. And Enda Stevens not too far away from a comeback too, I think, which would be very welcome.
You got to hand it to him, Damien. Conor Harrahan, it's not easy from a human level, going to Swansea, then going back to Villa, then going to Sheffield United and just hitting the ground running.
No, but it indicates his love for football, and delighted. I love to see stuff like that. Nobody wants to be kicking their heels or bouncing around the training ground. In situations where you might not even be training with the first team when it gets close to game day, when the managers want to strip a squad down to the lads that are involved. So he obviously has a huge hunger to play football, a huge desire. And I understand that. I was the exact same way. You never wanted to hang around anywhere where you weren't wanted, or even if there was an inkling that you weren't going to be playing every week, because there's nothing better in this world than lacing up a pair of boots at 3 o'clock on a Saturday. It's absolutely brilliant. And wasting a minute of that in the under 23s when you're an established first team pro is just out of waste. So credit to him, and it's great for our point of view from Ireland as well, because the more players we have that are playing at a good level and are match fit and sharp coming into the Ireland squad will be beneficial.
Okay, Damien Delaney, Shane Keegan and Dan McDonnell. We'll talk more football after 4. We got to take a break for the news off the ball Saturday on News Talk. Back in a few moments. Liverpool top of the Premier League at the moment, 5 games in as things stand. They lead Crystal Palace by goal to 0 at half-time, with Manchester City drawing with Southampton. We're back after the news. Don't go away.
Football on Off the Ball.
This weekend on News Talk, we're celebrating Sleep-Timber with Harvey Norman, the sleep experts. To find out more and for your chance to win a €1,000 Harvey Norman voucher for their bedding department, head to newstalk.com/sleep.
Tonight is your online date. Will the profile picture be true? You need to get dressed up, get dressed up. Laundry so clean, soft and fresh. Now your clothes look at their best. Bold. Always believe love may grow. Or pretend that you gotta go. You are bold.
Try Bold all-in-one pods for a brilliant clean with built-in softener. Always keep away from children.
Harvey Norman is the home of the big screen. Get incredible deals on the latest in home entertainment from Samsung. Save a massive €900 on the Samsung 65-inch QN85 Neo QLED TV. Now $1,999. Or get the Samsung 55-inch QN85 Neo QLED TV. Now $1,599, saving €500. Shop online today at harveynorman.ie or in our spacious stores. Harvey Norman, home of the big screen.
At Leia Healthcare, we want to give our members more. That's why all our members get unlimited access to a world of benefits. From video calls with a GP and online prescription services to one-on-one consultations with parenting and financial experts through our 24/7 mental wellbeing support programme. Leia Healthcare, looking after you always. Insurance provided by Ellipse Insurance Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare. Leia Healthcare Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare, and Leia Life is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Unrestricted benefits are available to members until the end of 2021. Fair usage policy and age restrictions apply.
At Betfair, we know how it feels when you're in the moment, in the heat of the match, and you decide to hit cash out. Only to find cash out is suspended and you're frozen out of your bet. That's why when you bet fair on football, you can cash out when you want, with no suspensions on match odds. We won't freeze you out of your bet because we're Betfair.
Applies to sportsbook match odds markets on majority of football. Excludes free bets, exchange bets, bet builder and bet settlement window. T's and C's apply. 18+. See gamblingcare.ie. Please gamble responsibly.
Pitch perfect, flamboyantly funny and unforgettable. Don't miss Medicine by Enda Walsh, starring Claire Barrett, Aoife Duffin and Donald Gleeson, with drummer Sean Carpio. Critics are calling it a superb production with a magnificent cast and an astounding soundtrack. Gleeson's performance is a powerhouse. See it in person at Galway International Arts Festival, stream it live or watch on demand from home. Book now on giaf.ie, supported by the Arts Council.
Looking for a sale that really excites? It's just landed.
Now, with Virgin Media, you can get superfast broadband, TV 360, and Sky Sports or Sky Cinema for only €59 a month for 12 months and from €92 a month after that. The sale you've been searching for. Now on. Bring on amazing. See virginmedia.ie.
T's and C's apply, subject to availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. Big bundle, €59 a month for 12 months, €92 per month thereafter. Sky Cinema SD, €112 or Sky Sports SD, €132 per month after offer. Ends October 6th.
This season, Live Score is the only place where you can watch every single UEFA Champions League game for free. That means more goals, more unforgettable drama, more end-to-end action. And whether you're watching on your phone or tablet or casting to your TV, the free Live Score app gives you even more ways to watch. Live Score, the new home of the UEFA Champions League. It's more than a score. Download now on the App Store or Google Play.
Dee here, just opened a current account on the OnPost Money app. Yes! She's feeling in control of her money because now she's got savings jars. Amazing. Contactless payments on her phone and smartwatch. So easy. And loads more handy little features that lead to big results. Love it. Now that's a good feeling. Download it today, search OnPost Money on your app store or visit your local post office to find out more. Because you deserve more than a bank.
Terms and conditions apply. OnPost is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide payment services and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland in the provision of such services. A monthly maintenance fee applies.
If you're a small business without a big advertising budget, how do you find customers spread out over Europe? Samuel is the owner of My Jolly Candle, a French candle maker who find up to 80% of their European customers through Facebook. He says that personalised advertising on Facebook's platforms shows relevant ads to the right audiences and is one of the cheapest ways of acquiring new customers. Learn more about how business in Europe is happening on Facebook at aboutfb.com/IE/Europe.
Here at News Talk, we're asking you to go an extra mile for the Children's Health Foundation. All you have to do is push yourself a little bit harder. In other words, go that extra mile. And in October, we're going to be holding a group run so we can all come together to raise funds and help give every sick child the very best chance. And if you don't run, don't worry. You can start a new exercise routine, go walking, whatever takes your fancy. Find out how to donate, start your own fundraising and join our Strava group. Check out newstalk.com, follow us on social and tune in to The Hard Shoulder weekdays from 4.
On News Talk, Show Me the Science.
Proudly sponsored by B. Braun.
With Professor Luke O'Neill.
A News Talk original podcast series focusing on different issues, from the serious to the silly. All explained through science. Catch up on the podcast series at newstalk.com or on the News Talk app. Powered by Go Loud.
Across Ireland. This is the IMRO Radio Awards National Station of the Year. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Stephen Burke. An audit of all water treatment plants in the country is to begin after 2 serious incidents in Dublin and Wexford last month. Contaminated water passed through the Ballymore Eustace and Gorey plants, with 52 cases of illness now linked to the North Wexford supply. The plants will all be checked so that the proper processes are in place for dealing with and escalating incidents, with all staff to be given refresher training. Gorey Fianna Fáil councillor Andrew Bulger says local reps are to meet with Irish Water again on Monday.
You know, we can't let this happen again. It's happened now, and I'm quite angry and quite upset over what has happened to the people of Gorey. But I suppose moving forward, we need to make sure it doesn't happen again. So we will have a private meeting with Irish Water on Monday. They have no intention of coming to a public meeting. That's what I've been told.
The Minister for Defence will meet a group of women who've alleged they were sexually assaulted and discriminated against while serving in the Defence Forces. The women gave their accounts of the alleged abuse while taking part in a radio documentary last weekend. Simon Coveney says the women have since agreed to a meeting and he has instructed his officials to make all the necessary arrangements. He says an independent review is also to take place. A man in his 30s is in a serious condition in hospital after being found with a bad head wound in Limerick City last night. He was taken to hospital after being found bloodied and walking on the Ennis Road at around 10 o'clock. Gardaí still aren't sure how he came to be injured. They were appealing for witnesses in the area between 8 and 10 last night to be in contact with Marston Garda Station as a technical examination of the scene continues. A member of An Garda Síochána has been taken to hospital after a two-vehicle crash in Drumcondra in Dublin this morning. A car and an official Garda motorbike crashed at the junction of Dargle Road and Drumcondra Road Lower just before 10 o'clock this morning. The Garda, aged in his 30s, was taken to the Mater Hospital to be treated for non-life-threatening injuries. And pop-up vaccine clinics are open in 22 college campuses over the next few weeks. The latest figures show that only 78% of people aged 16 to 29 are fully vaccinated, compared to 90% of the whole adult population. It comes as a further 1,456 cases of the virus have been reported by the Department of Health. It's just gone 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair, investing $20 billion in new aircraft to improve our environment.
Outbreaks of rain and drizzle spreading eastwards this afternoon. That rain will be heavy at times in the north and northwest. Top temperatures of 14 to 18 degrees, with light winds turning fresh to strong along Atlantic coasts. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're welcome along to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk for the second part of Football Saturday with Damien Delaney, the former Republic of Ireland international, the football correspondent of the Irish Independent Dan McDonnell, and the UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan to talk about the beautiful game. You can text us, get in touch, 53106, that costs 30 cents. You can tweet us at Off the Ball, you can listen on News Talk and also watch us on the digital and social channels if you're on the move, for Periscope on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the new OTB Sports app. If you haven't downloaded it already, please do so. Such great content on it by searching OTB Sports in your app store. Just go through the half times in the Premier League. Let's get some reports. Liverpool at the moment, top of the table. They lead Crystal Palace with the details from Anfield to Shane Pinnington.
It's Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0, and 2 minutes before the break, Jurgen Klopp's side got themselves in front. A Smikas corner from this left-hand side, met by Mo Salah's header. That forced a good save by Guaita, but there was Sadio Mane to tap home the rebound. Prior to that, Liverpool had been pushing to try and get themselves in front. Thiago and also Henderson were denied by Guaita in the Palace goal, whilst Palace have had chances of their own. Zaha's lobbed effort early on in the half was pushed onto the post by Alisson, and then a good chance for Benteke when he headed over from 12 yards out. But this game certainly not over yet. It's Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0.
That is Mane's 100th goal in the Liverpool shirt. Now, Pep Guardiola moaning about a lack of a full house at the Etihad Stadium the other day. They're playing Southampton at the Etihad today, and it's scoreless at the break. The details from this one, from Peter Smith.
City 0, Southampton 0, and a half of frustration for City, who allied to not clicking into gear very often, have been up against a Saints team who've tried to attack themselves wherever possible without showing any conviction in the final third. City's attacks have often been thwarted by some resolute Southampton defending, wayward headers from Gundogan and Jesus, and an off-target curler from Sterling which flew wide, have represented the best that City have had to offer. Half-time, City 0, Southampton 0.
The Gunners are in front at Turf Moor. This is Burnley against Arsenal with Adam Dury.
Martin Ødegaard's free kick has given Arsenal a 1-0 lead over Burnley. The hosts had frustrated the Gunners with stubborn defending, and they'd wasted a few chances themselves to take the lead. But in the 30th minute, Ødegaard laser-guided a left-footed free kick from the edge of the box over the wall, out of the reach of Pope and into the corner of the net. Still 45 minutes for Burnley to make a response, but the Gunners are on course for back-to-back wins. At Turf Moor, it's Burnley 0, Arsenal 1.
And it is stalemate at Carrow Road. This one is between Norwich and Watford, and our reporter is Guy Swindles.
Norwich 1, Watford 1. A first half that's flown by, end-to-end football. Watford took the lead. Lovely goal this, Firminia's fine cross, and an even better run and header from Emmanuel Dennis, giving the visitors the lead. But Norwich kept pressing, and eventually they made a break through Norman's lovely curled pass round the back of the Watford defence. Pookie was through. Foster stayed on his line and saw the ball clip past him. Great first half, Norwich 1, Watford.
And so that's a 1-1 between Norwich and Watford at the moment in the Premier League. Just to give you scores from the Championship as well in England. Full-time earlier on, John Egan scoring twice for Sheffield United, a 3-1 win over Hull. Half-time, Barnsley 0, Blackburn 0. And into the second half now, it's Cardiff 0, Bournemouth 0, Derby 2, Stoke 0. It is Fulham 0, Reading 1. Huddersfield 0, Nottingham Forest 1. Luton are leading Swansea by 3-0. It is Middlesbrough 1, Blackpool 0. Millwall 1, Coventry 1. Peterborough 2, Birmingham City 0. It is Preston 1, West Brom 1, QPR 0, Bristol City 1. And in Scotland at the moment, entering the second half, it's Aberdeen 0, St Johnstone 0, Hibernian 0, St Mirren 1, and Ross County 2, Hearts 1. These are the scores from England and from Scotland. Just on Arsenal, Damien Delaney, they're looking for their second win in a row. He's made a few signings over the summer. Ramsdale is in goal now. You've got White and Gabriel in the centre of defence. Partey's come into the team today. Odegaard's permanent signing now. Is there better shape with Arsenal? Are you seeing positive signs, or is it too early to say?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. What's the standard for Arsenal? What would be considered a good season for them now?
Sixth.
I think sixth. Yeah, I think sixth would be a good season for Arsenal. Yeah, absolutely. But they're nowhere near the other ones, and even the likes of Leicester and stuff now have kind of retaken their spot in the top 5 or 6 really for me. So it's just sad that Arsenal once were the premier side, the brand that they were, the football they played, what they stood for, and they've kind of fallen away and fallen off that, and it's going to be a long way back for them.
He had Maitland-Niles and Lokonga playing against Norwich. I see there, Shane Keegan. They're not in the team today. So we got Partey holding behind 4 players then behind Aubameyang, so Saka, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, and Pepe.
Yeah, it's far from the quality starting 11s that we used to see in times gone by, JD. That's for sure. And to say that as you said there, to say that realistically the height of their ambition is 6th position is just an incredible fall from grace. But I think that is where they're at. Like by no means would they be guaranteed getting into the top 6 at the moment. It's a real struggle. And look, Arteta seems to my mind, he must have a decent relationship with the powers that be there, because I think he would have been under significant pressure from the fan base already. He seems to have rolled it out and bought himself a bit of time, and maybe they can kick on and start to string a few results together. But I don't know, if you were giving me evens either side of him still being in charge at the end of the season or not, I actually can't see it, to be honest.
It's the first time we've had you on the show, Damien, this season, which is great, and we'd love to get your view on the Republic of Ireland. We had those 3 World Cup qualifiers, 2 points, Azerbaijan and Serbia we drew against, played well against Portugal, but the Azerbaijan result and performance obviously worrying. Where do you stand on the whole thing?
I think, first of all, I want Stephen to succeed, I really do, but he has, I think, made a couple of errors along the way, and I think he's kind of underestimated the importance of results. I understand that when he interviewed for the job or when he was kind of putting forward what he wanted to do with the national team, of course, blooding young players was an important part of it. Changing the style is an important part of it, and I think he could be commended on achieving both of those. But to achieve both of those with the results that he had is I think where he's just slightly got it wrong. No, I'm not saying for a second that I think that Ireland should have won 10 games. Absolutely not. But to have one win from 17, I think we're at now, at any level, regardless of what you're trying to do with regards to culture or styles or anything like that, is unacceptable. And I think that if he would have had 5 wins on the board, so that means 4 more, and I think there was 4 games in his first 17 that he was capable of winning, that he should have won. When you think that we had Finland twice, Bulgaria twice, Qatar, I don't have the list to hand there, but there probably was another at least 3 or 4 or 5 wins in there for him, and then all of a sudden now the natives are an awful lot happier. Now, I'm not saying that he deliberately went out to discard results and just completely placed no merit on them or whatnot, but you can't forget about results. And I think now he's trying to shift it when he came out with a statement recently with the Germany 2024 statement, which means that, is he saying that he realised or understood or expected that the results would be as poor as what they've been? So I suppose those 3 pillars of results, style and bloody young players is just forgotten about results for me, and you can't get away with that. You just won't. People won't tolerate it. People won't stand for it. So he's put himself under an enormous amount of pressure. And I think just 2 or 3 more results would have, had so much more goodwill going into this. If he'd have just maybe tweaked his style a little bit, or just focused on results in certain games and just said, look, let's just get a result regardless of blooding young players and stuff. He would have eased an awful lot of pressure on him, and I think everybody would be behind him. But at the moment, I think people are starting to wobble now and question it. But he should almost certainly, or absolutely should be given to the end of the qualifying campaign. But I don't think you can underestimate the importance of the Azerbaijan game coming up, because, if we lose that, we go bottom of the group. With a run of fixtures left, it's going to be very, very difficult to avoid the wooden spoon. And I think that if we do end up finishing bottom of the group, it's a tough sell for Stephen with the progress and the blooding young people. So look, it's difficult for him. I feel for him. It's not an easy job. It's very, very difficult. But I also feel that he has got certain things incorrect.
What do you think players are feeling now, Damien? Because I think this is going to be an interesting thing coming up to the Azerbaijan match in particular, that this has been flagged as a massive game, and it is a massive game in the context of the manager debate, and there's no doubt that it is. And I know players will say, younger players in particular, for the younger players, I don't think this is much of an issue because they're delighted to play for their country, to establish themselves. But clearly some of the older lads, I mean, for them, it's all about getting to a tournament. In some cases, it might be their last or their second last chance to get to a tournament. And once qualification is gone, and I know you would never doubt the character of these lads at all, and there's real, pride in their country. And I'm not trying to say that, but there's a natural intensity that comes from competing for a league or competing for qualification. And when that's gone, it strikes me as that could be a slight issue for Stephen Kenny in these forthcoming games, that they're massive games for him, but they're not necessarily massive games for some of the older players, if you know what I mean. And is that just one dynamic of it that to take into consideration with what's coming down the tracks?
Definitely that. Yeah, I think that playing for your country is a patriotic duty. So players will kind of not rock the boat as much as what they would do at club level. So I think the younger lads will come in and they're just absolutely delighted to be playing for the country, and their older lads are that way too. But with regards to the manager changing the culture, I mean, Shane has managed clubs. I've not managed anyone, but the easiest way to change culture is players. You don't have that luxury at international level because you can't sign people, obviously. So you just need to blood youngsters. But I don't know. I just feel he's got the balance wrong, to be honest here.
How?
I think the formation for me is a big one. He seems wedded to it now, and it leaves you vulnerable. It leaves you open. When you're going with 2 central midfield players, and I've said this on the record, you're going to give up large chunks of games, and we've given up large chunks of games to teams that we shouldn't have. And they're the 4 or 5 games where I think that we should have dominated the ball and really created periods of sustained pressure. But I think even in the games we've done well. We have done well, but a lot of the games, the possession's been very, very close. And similar to what I said earlier, if you give certain teams a certain amount of possession, obviously the chances of scoring is higher. And I just think that we should have been more solid as well. He wants to be attacking. He wants to be front foot. So he has pushed his wing backs on at times and has left us vulnerable. You think of the Serbia game away, we got stripped down the side of the 3 centre backs time and time again. And I think they're ones where you kind of, when we played Portugal, the wing backs were in a back 5, breaking forward onto things and counter-attacking, whereas I think there was certain of the games the wing backs were far too high and there was an awful lot of space and 2 in midfield. That's not a good recipe when you got 2 against 3 in midfield and there's lots of space. You're going to give up chunks of games, and again you put the game into balance when it comes to that. So I think that formation that he seems to have found, and he seems to be sticking with it and he wants to stick with it, but when you look at our goals against column, I think it's 18 and 17, I think it is. But we've only kept 4 clean sheets. We're not prolific goal scorers. I think everyone will say that. So a premium has to be put on clean sheets. You just have to. And even if you're counter-attacking, that's fine. And I think he's just given teams too much of a say in games that really shouldn't have. And I think that if you can maintain enough possession against lower nations, they will crack eventually. But as I said, when you give them an outlet to relieve pressure, they will duly give that, because even teams like Qatar, technically, they're very, very good. You watch those games, they all control, pass, they're coached really, really well. But I think physically, and when you put them under enough pressure, they'll make poor decisions. And that's how you win those games.
I don't know, you know a lot more than me and Shane and Dan would, but we can't score goals. Is that the way you score goals? Because I don't know, I can't say for certainty going into Luxembourg and Azerbaijan that we can score goals as a football nation.
We see this, like scoring goals is, you can't simplify it down to the fact that we don't have a number 9 or we don't have a Robbie Keane anymore. But I think that there's other ways you can score goals. And I think one of the big ways is periods of sustained pressure, forcing errors, If you can get the ball and keep it in their defensive third, your attacking third for long periods, and recycling the ball, So when we put a cross in, it gets cleared, we pick up the bits on the edge, and we recycle it, we switch the point of attack, and we get them moving across the pitch. And that's what the top teams do. They keep recycling the ball, keep changing the point of attack, and then eventually you'll get them, because these teams will tire and they'll make poor decisions because they're not used to being under that type of pressure. And that's what the big sides do. And I don't think we've had enough periods in games against teams. Now, look, statistically, you can look at games, say, we came out on top, but when you look at the likes of the teams I mentioned, Qatar, Finland, Bulgaria, I think we've got good enough players to create sustained periods. I don't know, I'd like to hear Shane's thoughts on this, because these are just my thoughts. Shane's a qualified coach as well, so I'd like to hear his thoughts.
Shane?
Yeah, the most interesting one for me, JD, was the Serbia game, because I know we got a draw in the Serbia game, right? But Damien's asking whether our current formation, our current shape suits us. I can see his reasoning for going with 3. Like, ironically, I suppose when Stephen got the job, everybody was saying Stephen was wedded to a back 4, and it was a pity because our players suited a back 3. I can see the merit absolutely for the back 3. But what Serbia showed us was that you can play a back 3 and play 3 in the centre of midfield. So they went with 3 centre backs, they went with 3 in the centre of midfield, then they had their 2 wing backs, and now they had a front 2 as well. And I really, really think that we should try and take a leaf out of their book. I think if you look at the personnel that we've got and what we're struggling with at the moment, which I suppose Damien has pointed to is essentially a lack of bodies in the centre of the field. Okay, fair enough, Serbia have more technically proficient players than us, but I just think that shape in general will give us a better footing. It gives us the 3 bodies in the centre of the field while still being able to maintain the back 3. And I think Adam Ida would absolutely love a strike partner alongside him, because he's been brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant. And yet he hasn't ever really, bar I suppose he had that one good-headed chance against Azerbaijan. He's been brilliant without ever really being a goal-scoring threat. But he's done everything else brilliantly. His hold-up play, his working of the channels, he's been so impressive. How much would he love to have one run up right beside him? I don't know whether that one is a Troy Parrott or an Aaron Connolly or who it is. You can make different arguments for different fellas, but I'd love to see Steve. It's not it doesn't take massive tweaking from where we are. As I say, he can stick with the 3 centre halves, but surely then we can get a little bit more of a hold of the ball by having the 3 bodies in the middle of the field. And look, if we've got a bit more control of it, well then, you'd like to think that you can get the wing backs on into the higher areas at the right periods of time. I know James McLean was getting a lot of stick at one stage, but I thought in the last game he was really, really good, and his deliveries were excellent. Again, I'm looking at those deliveries and I'm going, James has put in some really, really good balls there, and fairness, Matt Doherty as well. If we had a front 2 in there, again, as those balls are coming in, are we now better set again to try and get somebody on the end of them? I'm not saying it's going to cure all ills, but I just thought Serbia played it superbly. And again, granted, they have better footballers than us, but I just thought they played it really, really well. I know the result was still the result, but they were by far the better side in it. I'd love to see us try something like that.
Thiago's gone injured down the tunnel for Liverpool. We also have Manchester City and Southampton still goalless in the Premier League. Reports of a red card coming in. We'll try and clarify that in a moment. Kyle Walker has been sent off for Manchester City in that game at 3 o'clock. Has Pep jinxed his own club with what he said about the whole support and everything like that. Burnley 0, Arsenal 1 is latest. Odegaard for Arsenal from a free kick. Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0. The goal scored by Sadio Mane just before half time. And Norwich 1, Watford 1 is the latest score from the Premier League. Earlier on, Wolves 0, Brentford 2. Aston Villa against Everton kicks off at 5:30. In the Championship, latest scores: Hull 1, Sheffield United 3 as a result. John Egan scoring twice. Barnsley 0, Blackburn 0, Cardiff 0, Bournemouth 1. Derby 2, Stoke 1 is the latest. It is Fulham 0, Reading 2, Huddersfield 0, Nottingham Forest 2. It is Luton 3, Swansea 0, Middlesbrough 1, Blackpool 0. Millwall 1, Coventry 1. It is Peterborough 3, Birmingham City 0. It is Preston 1, West Brom 1, QPR 1, Bristol City 1. And in the Scotland and the Premiership, Aberdeen 0, St Johnstone 0, Hibernian 2, St Mirren 1, Ross County 2, Hearts 1 is the latest score. Adam Ida on the bench today, Omo Bamidele on the bench for Norwich. How much of an issue is that for you, Damien, that they're not getting all of them game time?
It's clearly an issue. They're all young boys, and we're talking about developing players. And, if you're only going to give them 6, 7, 8 international games a season, obviously their development is going to be very, very slow. Which is obviously an issue for Stephen as well, because you want guys who are playing every week, and especially those guys at such a young age. Not the only way, but the best way to learn is to play, make mistakes, and get better. And it helps if they're match fit coming in as well. So it is an issue, if you're talking about blooding young fellas and playing them, and then they go back to the club and they're kicking their heels for large periods of time, and they're not playing regular football. You'd much rather have people playing the Championship, learning and getting better, as opposed to just knocking around. But I understand. Look, I'm not saying those guys should move or anything like that. But, in an ideal world for Steve, and he's going to blood them at international level, but then they go back to their clubs and they're learning and playing. I
think, Jason Knight is back sort of in the mix at Derby, who've had a sort of a weird one now with points deduction seemingly coming their way. And it's possible Jason Knight may need to leave Derby, or might be one of the assets that get sold from Derby in the next while. He's someone you'd expect to come back into it for next month. I see Ogbene has gone off at half time for Rotherham today, who's won. I think to go back to the point a small bit on the attacking side of things, like Stephen's teams have always played with wingers. He's a big fan of real out and out wingers, and it's something he's spoken about a lot in recent times, that he's not blessed with them in his squad at the moment. And in some ways you do feel that he's acting against his instincts in terms of how he's maybe come around to this formation, which is a bit out of sync, as sort of Shane alluded to maybe what he wanted to play when he comes in. And he has personnel that probably suits a version of it, but he would like to maybe introduce that's why he's made a big deal of sort of Ogbene, speaking about him. A real out and out right sided winger is something he feels he lacks. He was big on Callum O'Dowda when he came in, thinking O'Dowda was going to be a big player for him, and he's always injured. He's never available, and he's probably had to, in the space of a year, he probably come in with an idea of how he would play and what players he would involve. And he's had to sort of reset that and refresh that. But that's management. That's a challenge. You get dealt, you don't always get dealt the hand of cards that you want. And that's something I think he's probably struggled with, is actually managing some of the setbacks he's had. Well, some of the setbacks have been unlucky, and there's no doubt that they have been. It's probably the reaction to some of them as well just hasn't necessarily worked out in the way you would like. But there's younger players playing, but they are playing down the divisions, and that is the deal we have at the moment.
We have now Watford 2-1 up against Norwich. Sarr has scored for Watford at Carrow Road. A really dreadful start to the season for Norwich. Manchester City, that red card has been overturned and no penalty against Southampton, so Kyle Walker's still on the pitch, but is still goalless 68 minutes into their match at the Etihad Stadium. Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0. Sadio Mane just before half-time. Burnley 0, Arsenal 1. Odegaard earlier on for Arsenal, looking for 2 wins on the trot. Wolves 0, Brentford 2 is a result from earlier on. So what do you want to see then differently from Stephen next month, Damien Delaney, so we can get a win and get a positive end to the campaign?
Well, I think he's in the scenario now where he needs to recognise the perilous situation that he's in, and maybe he just needs to hit the pause button on the expansive game and dominating possession and looking good, and it might be time to batten down the hatches and get a result, because I feel he needs it. As I said, the Azerbaijan game is crucial. And he just needs to tip the balance a little bit and be maybe a touch more pragmatic, play a little bit more experience. I think people will understand that is the situation that he's in. I'm not saying, and by the way, and I understand a lot of people now will take me at the extreme end of my word here. I'm not saying let's just revert to Giovanni Trapattoni's era and just go with like 4-4-2 and that type of scenario. No, but you can just take the edge off what we're doing at the minute. Pick a formation that gives us a chance of getting, or a realistic chance of getting a clean sheet. And then hopefully we can get a goal and win 1-0. And I think 1-0 would suffice now. I think pretty much how it came. But again, I'm not stressing that all of a sudden we just start lumping balls in the box and smashing up to the big man and chasing things. No, but you can just definitely dilute it a little bit and just place a little bit more emphasis on getting a clean sheet and perhaps having a plan to dominate the ball a little bit more, because I think we can against the likes of Azerbaijan. You know, Shane was talking there about Stephen midfield getting outdone against Serbia. I feel that, you know, against Azerbaijan we can inflict that type of damage on Azerbaijan with the correct type of setup. We can dominate the ball. We almost certainly could do it in the other games, and they're the games where I feel we should have or could have picked up another 2 or 3, 4, 5 wins possibly.
OK, we got to take a break. Damien Delaney, Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan back with more football chat, including Dundalk's interesting week after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
You're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 5, talking about the beautiful game with Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent, Shane Keegan, the UEFA Pro Licence coach, and the former Republic of Ireland international and Premier League player Damien Delaney. Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0. Sadio Mane just before half-time. Thiago's gone off injured. Burnley 0, Arsenal 1. Odegaard with the goal for the Gunners at Turf Moor. Still goalless between Manchester City and Southampton. Norwich 1, Watford 2 is the latest score from the Premier League. And earlier it finished Wolves 0, Brentford 2. We'll get to the teams Aston Villa and Everton in just a moment. Some of your texts on 53106. Hi JD, I can see David Moyes doing the Kevin Keegan speech in the Mirror tonight ahead of tomorrow's game. I agree with Damien that he wasn't given enough time at United, says Bobby in Limerick. I think Stephen Kenny's on the right track. The grassroots needs investment. FAI need bums and seats to fund it. Playing football as a hoofball game will not fill stadiums, so at least if fans can go and enjoy a game like the Serbia one, there's more of a chance to keep them coming back and taking families and friends with them, says Rob in Monaghan.
I don't know about that, Rob. I think if we're not winning games and we're losing to finish the bottom of a group, I don't think anyone's really going to have too much excitement in going to the Aviva. Maybe I'm wrong there, I don't know.
Well, we've got a perler of a text now for you, Damien. Bottom line, the Stephen Kenny experiment has failed. League of Ireland manager, not good enough, not playing experienced players with the young lads. Why isn't Harry Arter playing? Why isn't James McCarthy playing? Manager's choice, that's why. Sack him at the end of the campaign. Not good enough. Nice man, doesn't have what it takes, says John, the season ticket holder.
John,
that's equally as mad.
Like Harry Arter's playing for Charlton in League One today. I just checked it there. It's his first league appearance since the 9th of January. And what day are we today? 18th of September. So I don't think even Harry Arter has an issue with Harry Arter not playing. Like, you know, I don't think he has a problem with that. And James McCarthy hasn't been available for the recent squad. He hasn't been, it's not that he's been left out. So again, this is the extremes of the debate. Like there's valid criticisms and there's not so valid.
Some of it can be a little bit, well, look you got to respect a season ticket holder at the Aviva, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. Sometimes,
yeah, of course, it can be wrong though. As well.
That's my point, and that's why some of the Chris Hughton stuff I find can be quite lazy. You know, Chris Hughton's available; he can be the manager now.
Well, the Hughton one now is this is sort of the manna from heaven for
Mo Salah. By the way, 2-0. Mo Salah scored.
Like, I think from some of the Kenny speculation, what they lacked was a candidate waiting in the wings that really ticked some of the boxes. You know, like you sort of had people starting to do sort of think pieces about, well, maybe it's the time to turn to Roy Keane, as though recent history didn't happen. You know, and all of a sudden it's like, yes, with this generation of young players who need a little bit of nurturing along, we're going to send Roy Keane into this and sort this out. I'm not so sure about some of the candidates mentioned. Whereas Chris Hughton, to be fair, is he's a credible candidate. even if there's certainly question marks about his recent record. I see Stephen Reid has gone in caretaker. Now there's always a new manager bounce, but he seems to have changed the formation, ironically gone to I think a 3 at the back system today. I think Hughton would have got some criticism for being a bit rigid in terms of his approach, and that would be Hughton would almost be the anti-Kenny in some ways in terms of maybe how he might be perceived in terms of his approach. Now some people would say that's what's needed, and that's a very perfectly valid point of view, but I don't know. I just think it's almost now it's Hughton's name is going to hang over Kenny in the coming months, which there's a simplistic aspect to that, I think, as well. But he's a better candidate than some of the other ones that have been mentioned. That's for sure. I don't know what the lads think. I don't know what the lads feel about it, because Hughton's done a great job at some clubs, and maybe it's just the case that the Forest was just a blip, and it just seemed to go bad from start to finish there. I don't know what your perception of either of you lads, if anyone has a strong take on Hughton.
Yeah, like Forest, I don't know. You listen to Forest fans, I'd know one or two who would say that anybody would struggle to have any sort of success at that club at the moment. It seems to be a bit of a basket case as well, really, at the moment. So it does. Like Chris Hughton, yeah, to me, he is a guy who seems to be very, very clued in, have a very, very good way with people. Like, there will inevitably, because social media dictates that you are firmly on one side or firmly on another side, there will be this push to be, are you let's stick with Stephen Kenny, or are you let's get him out and put Chris Hughton in as quickly as possible, sort of a decide now kind of a thing. I actually think. I do think Stephen is moved. I know I'm saying it a while without the results backing up to show it. I would have a really, really strong belief that we will go and beat both Azerbaijan and Luxembourg second time around. That's just gut, I suppose, or maybe it's blind faith. I'm not sure what it is, but I do think we will manage to do that. And I would like to think that if we do that, then that will get Stephen over what has undoubtedly been a rocky campaign. And I would love to see Stephen getting another campaign. If and when a time may come that the FAI feel that Stephen is not the manager, I think Chris Hughton would be a very, very strong candidate, and a guy that I would potentially like to see as an Irish manager in whenever that time occurs. But you don't. There's no rush to make that happen. There's no rush to make that happen. Chris Hughton is a football manager. He's a working football manager. I'm sure he intends to be a working football manager for the next 10, 15 years of his life. If it's 2023 or further down the road before he gets a crack at it, so be it. I think he's a guy who could do a good job. But I do think Stephen will get results right before the end of this campaign, and I would absolutely love to see him have a rattle at another one.
Damien, do you have a strong opinion either way on that?
I have no really opinion on Chris Hughton. I think after the qualifying campaign, when the dust settles, we need to sit down and look at it. And if, as Shane says there, that we do go and beat Azerbaijan and Luxembourg, then I think he certainly does deserve a crack at another campaign, because results are important. So I think it's crucial, those two games for him. But I have no opinion really. I mean, obviously it's a natural fit being an ex-international, and he's managed at the top level, so it is a natural fit. But at the moment, I think we just stick with Stephen till the end of this campaign and back him and see if we can get some results.
I interviewed him not too long ago. I think he would be interested if there was a vacancy, Chris Hughton, in the Republic of Ireland job. He was very proud of his, I think it was 53 caps, and landed at Euro 88 and played a long time for the Republic of Ireland. And we'll see what happens. Watch this space. 53106. Full credit to Stephen Kenny for what he achieved at Dundalk in one of the weakest football leagues in Europe. But the simple fact is, we have an international manager whose top club managerial achievement was arguably coming last in the group stages of the Europa League. Hence, it should be absolutely no surprise the manner in which the Kenny appointment has turned out. Where else in international football would you see such a bizarre appointment? One wonders. Probably ends the Stephen Kenny texters for this afternoon.
Lots of other countries would make similar appointments, but I
don't necessarily agree with that either. I think you judge a man, he got the job, and you judge him on his body of work, and regardless of what he's done, it doesn't that particularly matters.
Dundalk, what is going on at Dundalk? Will the club be sold? Will it be taken over?
Yeah, well, we'll probably throw to Shane on this in a minute because he's spent some time in the asylum. But you know, that was good to get the views of a former inmate. But listen, I mean, there is, like, it's gone from bad to worse, really. I mean, even last night, Dundalk, people may not be aware, we're playing an FAI Cup tie against Finn Harps. You know, they've had a dreadful run. They've dropped into the relegation playoff position, even though they have the highest wage bill in the country by a distance. You know, some part-time clubs around them far better than them at the moment. They're 3-1 up against 10 men with 5 minutes to go, and you're thinking, well, they're going to close this one out at least. And they don't. It finishes 3-3. Sean Boyd, who's a great story in himself. I did a piece profiling Sean after a year out with injury. Probably the best moment of his life in the last couple of years, scoring 2 goals, and a brilliant story. And, you know, Finn Harps, the spirit and togetherness they have is what Dundalk perhaps don't have at the moment. Now, there is potentially maybe light at the end of the tunnel, in the sense that there is sort of people coming together who are interested in a takeover. I would have written a story about this on Friday. There's takeover rumours been flying around for a while, but there is sort of substance to where this one might go if the respective parties looking at it can find some agreement and find some common ground and maybe strike a deal with the current owners. Because I think it's pretty clear, really, that I don't think the club is going to go anywhere under the current ownership, because as much as people may talk about taking a step back, it's clear that the same people have the same level of influence, and it's not working. It's basically just not working. And I mean, I don't know, Shane, like, even when you left, which is April now, maybe, was that when it was? April, May. Yep. Like, the season wasn't going well, but could you have envisaged it going to this level where, I mean, worst case scenario here, they have a place, they have a playoff to stay in the Premier Division, which seems almost unthinkable with the squad that they have.
Yeah, no, I certainly couldn't have predicted the decline been this dramatic. I would have had massive concerns. Obviously, that's obviously one of the main reasons why I would have left, is because I did have huge concerns about the direction things were going in. Look, there's a couple of points I'd point to, right? Why are they where they are at the moment? I would say I would look at 3 things in particular, all of which are utterly unforgivable, really. The first one I'd look at is, obviously, they've had an ongoing situation with the goalkeeping department. All right, if that couldn't have been more obvious that was going to be a problem. It couldn't have been more obvious that was going to be a problem. And in addition to that, there was absolute ready-made solutions before the season began. Some of the top keepers in this country made it clear that they were out of contract and were very interested in a move to Dundalk. So how the hell that happened, that they've ended up starting the season without one of these keepers and instead with the options that they've ended up with, is just madness.
I presume you raised that, Shane, though. I presume you raised that at the time as much as you could.
I did, Dan, but sure, look, I unfortunately I wouldn't have had a huge amount of power there. I was, a small enough wheel in the cog, so I was, and look, that's just the way it was. That's the way it was. I did, without a shadow of a doubt, I did, and nobody can say otherwise. It's probably the biggest concern I continuously raised, that and my concern about the lack of an Irish heart, I suppose, to it, for want of a better way of putting to the side. I had concerns about the amount of players who were coming in from outside the league, but just thinking, the second issue that I would see, right, is this injury situation, which I've seen Vinny call bizarre, right? It's the exact opposite of bizarre. And don't get me wrong, this is absolutely not Vinny's fault, so it's not. But it is the exact opposite of bizarre, because, and I don't want to go into naming names because it's not fair to draw a spotlight on them, but when I landed in there, Dundalk had, I would argue, one of the best medical departments in any sport in the country. An absolutely superbly functioning medical department with a top doctor and 2 absolutely superb physios. They're all gone. They're all gone because of the way the club has been managed, and because of fallouts with different people, and again, none of them been Vinny, to be fair to him. They were outside of his control, but all those people are gone. Now, when you then end up with an absolute injury epidemic on the back of that, that's not bizarre. That's inevitable almost. So it is. And, you know, that certainly hasn't helped the situation. And the third one for me, Dan, the one you're probably most aware of, obviously, is like the contract situation. Okay, I know in League of Ireland, it's an inevitable turnover that an awful lot of players are always coming to the end of their contracts. But normally, I suppose players understand that the clubs aren't financially well enough off to be able to give them long-term contracts. It's different at Dundalk. Players who are used to having their future sorted and knowing what's in front of them and knowing that they'll be looked after are now pretty much every one of them, all in the final year of their contract or in the 1 year of their 1 year contract. Like, I don't know how many times Damien's been in that situation, but that has got to have a massive, massive effect on your own individual psychology. And then if you've got a group of players who are all in that scenario, they're going to be all talking about it amongst each other. And that has to have a really, really negative effect as well. And you start to add all of those things together and you've got a real problem. And look, that's, I suppose, my tuppence word on how the hell they've managed to find themselves where they are.
Sadio Mane has scored a volley from outside the area. Liverpool 3, Crystal Palace 0. And Liverpool absolutely... Naby Keita, my apologies.
Amazing strike, yeah.
So it was Sadio Mane scored the first. It was Mo Salah with the second, both from corners. And then Naby Keita with the third, an excellent volley, which has just gone in at Anfield. And that's set to send Liverpool top because it's Manchester City 0, Southampton 0. In the Premier League, 90 minutes on the watch there. Arsenal 1-0 up away to Burnley, and it is Watford now 3, Norwich 1. So not a bad start to the season for Watford. Can't really say the same for the Canaries. Sarr has scored twice at Carrow Road. Anything you want to say to conclude that in Dundalk?
No, I don't know. There's not much more you can say, I think, about the Dundalk thing other than they need things to turn around. Actually, I was going to... The other thing, I mean, last night in the FAI Cup, there was 4 games. I think there was 4 sendings off again in the first half last night of the games. And it's been like a massive talking point. I spoke about it with Nathan the other night about refereeing in the league has become a massive talking point in recent weeks. We've had managers complaining about it, like Mark Bircham. I think we had a text in about Mark Bircham.
Yeah, please ask Damien about my team Waterford. How's Mark Bircham going in my view? He's won us over so far, says John.
Yeah, well, might spin the Damo on that in a second, but also I actually was going to ask Damien that as someone who played at a very good level in England and dealt with referees over there and then came home here, like, what was your impression of the officiating here? Because it's a huge talking point at the moment, and I suppose you're very well placed to maybe measure it from your own experiences.
Yeah, look, I suppose ultimately, you know, that's not really my fight anymore. So I'm not going to go into that. But I will say that it was an unpleasant experience, and I wasn't surprised when that story blew up last week. And that probably would be kind of the extent of what I would want to go into, to be honest with you, because I'm out of that note. And you know, I think the powers that be will hopefully look at it and things will improve.
Yeah,
but Bertie's doing a great job. Know him reasonably well. A lot of mutual friends from my time at QPR there, and Bertie's a bit of a QPR legend. So I've spent a bit of time with him. He's an infectious character. He's a happy guy. He has a good spirit about him, and he's as honest as the day is long. And if he was my manager, I would run around for him absolutely, because he's fair, he's honest, and he puts his heart and his soul into it, and he truly believes in player welfare, and he truly believes in making people better. So considering the circumstances he's working under, I think he's doing a great job. But also, I wasn't surprised to see him with the gripes that he had the last number of weeks.
Just the teams are coming in from Aston Villa against Everton, the 5:30 kick-off in the Premier League. For Villa, Martinez in goal, Cash, Target, Konza, Mings and Twanzebe, Louise, McGinn and Ramsey, and then Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings up front. And then for Everton, Asmir Begovic in goal. We've got Michael Keane, Yerry Mina and Ben Godfrey. Midfield, Alan, Lucadinha, Doucouré and Iwobi. And then in the forward positions, Damari Gray, Andros Townsend and Solomon Rondon, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin still injured. We got a text in on Everton earlier on 53106. What about Benitez's job at Everton so far? They look very solid at the back and are free scoring, says Connor. Look, he's going to get them organised, Damien, we know that, and he's brought a bit of pace and width into the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And he needed the staff that he's had because obviously, with his history and his connections, maybe Everton fans would find it difficult to accept him. But I suppose when you start off the way you started off, you'll turn people very quickly because results are pretty much everything in football. But he plays a nice brand of football, right type of pragmatism and attacking threat. So I'm delighted for him. And I think he will move Everton along. But it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to move into that top 6, really. But Everton are well positioned to do that.
Did you see the Pele documentary, lads? I don't know if you saw it. It's good to hear that he's out of hospital. Shane, did you ever see it?
No, I haven't seen that, Jelly, to be honest.
And Damien, did you see it?
No, I haven't seen it, no.
It's definitely worth checking out. It was on Netflix there a while ago. He's recovering well, says Pele, after briefly being readmitted to intensive care following an operation to remove a tumour from his colon. He's 80 years of age now, the football legend. I think when you think of probably the first global star in football, Pele was definitely that. Just to let you know, Liverpool are top of the Premier League at the moment. They've beaten Crystal Palace by 3-0 with Sadio Mane, Mo Salah and Naby Keita scoring the goals at Anfield, so a comprehensive win in the end. Latest score, Burnley 0, Arsenal 1 into injury time. 5 minutes of stoppage time played now at Manchester City. Manchester City 0, Southampton 0. It is Norwich 1, Watford 3. Earlier on, Wolves and Brentford finished in a 2-0 win for the Bees at Molineux. 5:30 kick-off, Aston Villa and Everton. And in the Championship, it finished Hull 1, Sheffield United 3. John Egan scoring twice. Latest scores, Barnsley 0, Blackburn 0, Cardiff 0. Bournemouth 1 as a result, so defeat for Mick McCarthy's side. It is Derby 2, Stoke 1. It is Fulham 1, Reading 2. Huddersfield 0, Nottingham Forest 2. That's coming to a close, a win for Stephen Reid. Luton 3, Swansea 2 is the latest. It is Middlesbrough 1, Blackpool 2. Millwall 1, Coventry 1. It is Peterborough 3, Birmingham 0. Preston 1, West Brom 1. And QPR 1, Bristol City 2. In the Premiership in Scotland, Aberdeen 0, St Johnstone 1 is a result. Also, Hibernian 2, St Mirren 2 is the latest. That's actually just gone full time. And Ross County 2, Hearts 2. Great chat as always, Damien and Shane. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks, Dan.
Cheers, lads.
And Dan McDonnell as well in studio with me. Just to let you know about tomorrow's show. We're on from 1 until 7 with Joe Malloy in the chair. We're going to showcase 2 live and exclusive Premier League commentary games. West Ham United versus Manchester United with Nathan Murphy and Brian Kerr calling that one from 2 o'clock. Then Spurs against Chelsea, Dave McIntyre and Keith Tracy describing that one from 4:30. Also the Sunday pay-per-view across the digital and social channels with Cliona Foley and Kieran Cunningham from 11:30. Be sure to tune in. What's going to be a great show on the OTB app from 11:30 on OTB Sports Radio, and then here on News Talk from 1 o'clock. If you missed our Saturday panel today, reviewing the sporting week with Maura Trassen-Ukali, Michael Verney and Cavan Cumiskey, or any of OTB Football Saturday on all the topics, Man U, Liverpool and Ireland, with Damien Delaney, Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan, you can find the podcasts of our content on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store to download the app for iOS and Android, or listen back wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for listening this afternoon. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.